welcome to another exciting episode of Dayspring Discussions. I'm your host, Sean McGahee, and this is a show where we talk about movies, TV, sci-fi, fantasy, comic books. If you geek out about it, we're going to talk about it. You can listen to Dayspring Discussions on iTunes, YouTube, Podomatic, and Patreon, and contact us on the Facebook group, Twitter, and at dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Well, I hope you guys are all having a good weekend, and I hope you got out to see Justice League, because that's what we're here to talk about. I am joined today by the wonder of women herself, Miss Lisa Locke McGahee.
Hello.
Alright guys, so Lisa and I have now seen the movie twice. That's right, we went Friday night and Saturday night. Make sure we had a nice, good grasp of what this film encompassed before we sat down and talked about it. So before we do that, though, I want to first remind you guys, of course, we go spoilers. So if you haven't seen Justice League, pause, go see the film, come back, listen to what we have to say, and then, of course, fire back on social media and the Gmail account. And two, I want to talk a little bit about the history of this film because, let's be honest, this film has been a hot mess.
Yeah.
A total hot mess. So the DC Cinematic Universe, not really chugging along like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Man of Steel, the first film, was very divided. Batman v Superman theatrical cut, let's face it, sucked. So did Suicide Squad. Wonder Woman, though, came back and showed people there might be a little bit of hope for this cinematic universe. Now, halfway through production, or over halfway through production, the director, Zack Snyder, had a very horrible tragedy happen to him, and he had to step away. Joss Whedon came in, finished the film, and allegedly we thought it was just going to be a couple of reshoots. From what we're hearing now, it was major reshoots. Before even all that, the film went through several scripts. It's just been a whole bag of mess for Warner Brothers and everyone involved. We'll get to the other incidents in a little bit. But first, before we really get into the review, I just want to say and ask Lisa, given the fact that the DC Cinematic Universe has not had the best track record now, but the last film, Wonder Woman, did receive very positive reviews from critics and audiences. So, being that it got off on a high note, do you think that put more pressure on Justice League to perform or less pressure for it to perform?
I think more pressure. I think there's a ton of pressure. Because, as everyone knows, the DC Cinematic Universe is kind of a shit show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think no matter how good Wonder Woman was, they still needed this movie to be awesome. Mm-hmm. And it's been kind of plagued from the beginning with, like, one disaster after another disaster. And, I mean, people didn't have high hopes anyway. Just even coming after Wonder Woman, I think people's expectations were a little bit better after Wonder Woman, but I don't think people really were expecting it to be amazing.
I thought, well, you had Zack Snyder, who directed Man of Steel and Batman v Superman.
Which were not well received.
Were not well received, both of them. And then Wonder Woman came out. And I think, for me, I agree with you. I think it put more pressure on Justice League because we saw, hey, they can do it right. Mm-hmm. They can actually do a good job with these films if they get it right. So, and this is the film that it's all been culminating to. You know, this is the Avengers style of this cinematic universe. So we sit down, we watch Justice League for 2 hours. Lisa, what are your initial thoughts on Justice League?
I liked it. I liked it. I wasn't expecting much. I liked Man of Steel okay. I did not like Batman v Superman at all. Not even the cut that you like.
The ultimate cut?
I'm not a fan of that film. I never even saw Suicide Squad. I really went into this with the bar set pretty low. But I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I think that they did a lot of things better than the previous. Part of that for me could be is I'm not a big fan of Zack Snyder films in general. I don't like his style in movies. I don't think I've ever seen a film of his that I've liked.
Yeah.
So, for me, him doing this already puts a little bit of meh on it for me, just because... And it's not because it's him. It's not like I know it's him, and so I'm like, oh, I'm not going to like this. I just don't like the tone that he brings to films. Yeah. I've never been a fan. So, again, I think I was going into it pretty not expecting much. However, with Joss Whedon coming into it, it gave me a little bit more hope. I mean,
Yeah.
I like Joss Whedon stuff. And I think you could see in the movie Joss Whedon's touch on it.
Oh, you could totally see his influence.
I think that is partly maybe why I did like it. You know, there was a little more humor than it had been in the previous films. It was definitely lighter. The characters had more color. Everything wasn't like grayscale.
Yeah, like dark
sepia.
tones.
Everything was like sepia tones in the previous films. I mean, this one, like Superman's outfit was like real colorful. Like,
yes.
I mean, I felt like there was a lot more color. Everything was a little more vibrant. There was definitely more humor. It was more entertaining. It wasn't so dungeons and, you know, not dragons. It doesn't make any sense, but you know what I'm saying? It wasn't all like dark and gloomy. I mean, and not even just in the color, but in the acting, the personalities. I mean, in the last films, it's like everybody was brooding.
Yeah.
This one, I felt like they were enjoying each other.
Everyone was having a little bit of fun.
Yeah, I mean, they all were. Like, even, and there were definitely good serious moments, but, you know, there was a lot of moments, too, where you could tell that they were enjoying each other's company. And I think that made a difference in enjoyability for me as a fan. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, like, over the top, like a Marvel film sometimes can be, like Thor was.
Like Thor was,
it wasn't like that, but there was enough humor in it that I think it kept it light enough to where you weren't like, God, it's so depressing, you know, like some of those.
All right, well, I like the movie. We saw it a second time last night, and I always like to see a movie that I'm highly anticipating a second time before I do a review of it, because that first time you have all the expectations of what you think it's going to be, what you want it to be. With the second time around, you can put those expectations aside and just try to enjoy the film for what it is. So that's why I say next month for Star Wars, we're going back-to-back nights. That way, that second night, I can sit down, having already seen the film, and just try to appreciate it for what it was. So last night I sat down, and I really liked the film. I thought the word was fun. The word was fun. It was fun, and that's something that's been missing from the DC Cinematic Universe films. So in that respect, I like it. Now, it does have its issues.
Oh, for sure.
We know it does have its issues, of course, but I was talking to someone last year about Batman v Superman versus Captain America Civil War. Two films that, on a broad spectrum, are very similar to each other. But when it comes to a film, it comes down to what I'm willing to forgive and things I'm willing to believe in. Captain America Civil War had some things that were a little off, you know, like each movie does. Mm-hmm. But the good outweighed the bad to where I forgave those things. Batman v Superman had some good things, but the bad outweighed the good too much where I wasn't willing to forgive them.
Well, and especially because I think part of the main thing about that is if you have a connection to the characters. And I think that's the one thing that the Marvel Cinematic Universe does so well, is that you become invested in those characters. You like them. You know, you want to go have a beer with Iron Man. You know, you would love to go to the gym and even get circles run around you by Captain America. You know, like, you would love to hang out with them. They seem like cool guys and girls. You know, like, I think that so even when the films have things that don't really make any sense and you're kind of like, that wouldn't really happen, you like the characters so much that you're willing to, you don't even think about the bits that don't make sense because you're so invested in the characters. Yeah. Where I think in the DC universe, they never gave us the chance to really like these characters. You know, and Man of Steel, like, Henry Cavill, you know, as Superman, he was okay. Yeah. But the movie had so many, like, they didn't develop his character well enough to where you were like, yeah, I really like that Superman. I really am pulling for him. You were kind of like, yeah, he's cute. But, you know.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Well, no, but I would.
But, yes, I mean.
But the same thing with, like, Batman and the other characters. You know, you just, I think that's what worked in Wonder Woman is you really got, they put some time into making you like those characters. Mm-hmm. And it was the first one that they'd really done that with. And I think they did that in this one. They really made you like these characters. Okay.
So, getting into it a little bit, give me two things you stood out for you that you liked, and give me two things that stood out that you didn't like.
Okay, so the things I didn't like. I didn't like the villain.
Steppenwolf.
Yes, okay. I was not a fan of Steppenwolf.
I know you're talking about how
I don't think he should have been CG. I really wish they would have made him a person with, like, prosthetics or something. Because the character was very humanoid. Like, he was essentially a human-type alien. Like, he was a humanoid alien. There was no reason for that character to be 100% CG. Yeah. Sure, he was supposed to be bigger than the other people, but, like, dude, you can totally make... I mean, look at Lord of the Rings. They made the hobbits tiny, and a lot of that was just forced perspective. Yeah. You know, like, I just didn't feel like they could have easily added some little horns to his chin and made his face look kind of crinkly with prosthetics.
Yeah, it takes it out of the film.
It took away from him. Yes, I mean, he wasn't a real strong villain anyway. And then the whole time he was on screen, I was like, why is this character CGI? Like, it distracted me to the point where there was no reason for him to be a CGI character.
They get away with a lot more action with the character, I think, since he was CGI.
But still, the other characters, they just make them CG when they're fighting. They're real people. Yeah.
Seeing the film a second time, it didn't bother me as much. I know people are like, oh, it's such a weak villain, and they compare it to Marvel's weak villains. He served his purpose. Remember, again, comparing it to the fact that we're going in the right direction with these films is the heroes were the focus of it. We loved the heroes. Everyone walks out saying how much they enjoyed the chemistry between everyone, and that's, to me, the main thing.
But with the villain, too, part of the thing I didn't like about him also, in addition to the whole I don't think he should have been CG, was they kind of explained the boxes and the unity, whatever, but I don't think they really explained, who is he talking to? When he kept talking to Mother, who the hell was that? It didn't make any sense. They didn't, I don't think they really explained what the boxes meant, who this Mother was he kept talking to, and what he was trying to do with the boxes.
So a website has come out today. One of my friends over at the Geek Blend shared it, where it's all basically describes all the deleted scenes and all the stuff they took out that was supposed to be originally in the film. And one of them was a scene where Steppenwolf was talking to the actual person he called Mother. And I thought the character was fine because if you look at him, here's his story. His story was he came to Earth thousands of years ago looking to rule Earth, to impress...
To make it like his homeworld.
To make it like his homeworld, which...
essentially he was going to terraform it.
He was going to make it apocalypse, okay? And with the help of Atlanteans, Amazons, and humans, and a Green Lantern, by the way, they were able to fight him back. And he's been in exile, pretty much. So now he's come back to try again so that he can, quote, join the new gods. So essentially what happened was Darkseid kicked him out after his failure on Earth, and it looks like he's been in some exile, and he wants to reclaim her so that way he can join the new gods, which I'm going to say that a couple more times, the new gods, in order to be what he was supposed to be.
See, they didn't explain that. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I got. Just the first time I was watching it, the second time after I watched it on screen again and thought about it, that's what I got from it.
Right, but you know a little bit about the history.
True.
I'm saying for the average moviegoer like me who doesn't read these comics, I was so confused. They made this whole big thing. They did talk about the battle before when he had come and essentially he was going to terraform it. That I got from it. But then what he was doing currently didn't really make any sense. He kept talking to Mother, and I was like, who the hell is he talking to? And then, why did he go to that, reactor, the old power plant? And what was that thing that
they had to do,
that was growing? They didn't explain it.
They had to go to some place that had, very little internet or something like that, they said.
That's what I'm saying. It didn't make it...
That's why he chose that place.
And what was that thing? What was the cocoon? Was that an animal? Was that a human? Was that a life form?
What cocoon? The thing
that was
Did he put the mother boxes into?
Yeah, that was, growing out everywhere.
It was terraforming the world.
Oh, see, that's what I'm saying. They weren't explaining
How is that any different from Man of Steel? When they were trying to terraform...
Because they explained what they were doing in that one. They said, they're trying to create Krypton here on Earth. They literally said those words. This one, he kept talking to this random mother.
They talked about it early in the film where he was trying to... In the whole, Lord of the Rings backstory thing they did with,
Well, yeah, they said that his intention was to create a world like his homeworld. But that thing I thought that was like an animal or something. It didn't look like terraforming. It looked like it had intention. The purple things that were coming out of the ground, they were chasing people. It didn't that's what I'm saying. I thought maybe that's a creature. Maybe this mother he keeps talking to is this creature that's gonna do something weird. I'm just saying it was very unclear.
Okay, I got you. So that's one thing you didn't like.
Yeah.
Name me the second thing. Not that I need to ask.
The second thing. Oh, Henry Cavill's lip.
Yes.
Superman's lip. God.
So for those of you who don't know, they shot this film and then they went back for reshoots.
A lot of reshoots.
At that time, Henry Cavill was in the middle of shooting the next Mission Impossible film with Tom Cruise, and he had a mustache. And he was under contract that he could not shave his mustache for reshoots of Justice League because he had to go back and do Mission Impossible. So they went back, Warner Brothers, and probably spent at least a couple $100,000.
Oh, more than that.
To CGI the mustache off of Henry Cavill, aka Superman, for what almost was the entire film.
It literally was like almost every scene he was in.
And it really was, when you know that and you watch it, it was totally distracting.
Oh my god. In the very first scene of the movie, I was like, oh my god, his lip is not moving properly.
I know. They so start weird. The film with him and the lip. And I'm like, why would you start the film this way? What are you trying to do to me?
It was so annoying. It was just, I just can't even believe that, I still can't believe that Mission Impossible had enough clout to tell Warner Brothers and DC that they could not shave his mustache. It was so ridiculous.
It was pretty ridiculous. But seeing it the second time, knowing that it was coming and knowing what it was going to look like, I was able to look past it at least a little bit to where it wasn't as distracting the second time around.
It wasn't as distracting for me the second time.
So I could focus more on actual Superman. So in that instance, it was fine. Okay, so what are your two standouts in this film?
Well, just the relationships. I really liked the team. Like when they were all together, especially after Superman joined in too, but even before then, when it was just everybody else, the scenes that they all had together, I thought were really good. The relationships, the dynamic, I thought it was really interesting. And I really liked each of the characters individually. I think they did a really good job. Even though we haven't gotten like the origin stories for all the characters, I think they did a really good job of introducing you to them to where you were interested and you liked them without having to have their whole backstory.
So do you want to see more of them? That's what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about a Cyborg standalone film.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought he was pretty interesting, but I think as part of the group, he makes sense. I don't know that I'd want a whole movie about him. But, I mean, I'm looking forward to Aquaman now. Yeah. I am, and I wasn't before.
With that, I mean, Aquaman, I think they spent more time trying to set him up, too.
Yeah.
They took him to Atlantis, so you could see a little bit of that world. I think that whole point was to tease the Aquaman movie, because it is the next one coming out. It's a year away, and I don't know how much momentum they're going to have, by that time. Especially with this film reportedly not doing as well as Warner Brothers hoped, of course. But it really set him up for the world there. Jason Momoa, when he was first cast as Aquaman, I wasn't a big fan of it. Just because, first off, he doesn't look like the classic Aquaman. But, he put that badass spin on him to where Aquaman has been the joke of comic books for decades, ever since Super Friends. And I think they wanted to totally destroy that stereotype, and I think they did that with this character. I'm still worried, though. While I think Jason Momoa did a fine job in this film, the other films he's done have not done well. I don't think he's that strong of an actor yet to carry a film, let alone a franchise. That's kind of the way I see it. But, of the Aquaman parts, of the parts with Mera, again, Amber Heard, I'm not a big fan of her as well. The little bit that I saw of her as Mera was fine. If they do the whole scene, though, underwater, and they don't talk in the comics, they talk underwater. They're Atlanteans. They live underwater. They have to be able to communicate. But they had to make the air bubble for this one. And if that's what they have to do for the entire Aquaman movie, it's going to bug me a little bit. But, you got little bits of each character, and I liked Cyborg. I'm not usually a big Cyborg guy, but I liked how he was used. I think
they did a good job with him.
Good job with him. I liked him. We're talking about that there was rumor that there was going to be a Flash Cyborg buddy film, and I think that scene in the graveyard, helped kind of fed into that rumor where you can see that. There was the scene where in the graveyard, Barry tries to fist bump him.
And then at the end that they do.
And then at the end, when they're standing there, they do fist bump. Exactly. So there's your payoff on that. But with this whole film, I think even people who dislike it, the big thing we're getting from is, it didn't get $135 million like they wanted to. I guess I just read the numbers, coming in at 96, so under 100. Not good. No. Not good. But I don't blame this. I blame Batman v Superman for this number.
Agree.
Batman v Superman, put in $165 million, but it was so bad. You got to blame the film before it on what the sequel does, so to speak. And this whole film, I think if it was just this and Wonder Woman, or even Man of Steel and then this, I think it easily would have cracked $100 million.
I think what we need to look at with this one is what they do next week.
Yeah.
I think that's really going to tell you how this is. Because if it can stand up to where people tell their friends this week, hey, you should go see it.
And that's what I did. I told people to go see it, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that what we really need to look at is opening weekend, I think, tells you how is based on the previous film.
Yeah.
Where second week drop-off, I think, is a representation of how good the film actually is.
And if it's going to, any film like this, if it's going to succeed, people have to go back a second time to see it. So does it have rewatchability? Do people want to go see it next weekend or 3 times even? We'll just have to wait and see about that. But overall, I enjoyed the film. Again, I think it's this step in the right direction. I mean, for me, of course, the highlight, I got to say, it's Superman. Because they freaking got Superman right, okay? And I always thought Henry Cavill was a fine Superman. And even in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, I think he did a fine job. But in this one, they actually let him be Superman. His suit was more colorful. He cracked a couple of jokes. He used his freeze breath, we saw for the first time in 3 films. He used his super hearing, all that stuff. I mean, it was Superman. The way he talked, especially at the end with the race with Barry. And he's like, well, I'm kind of curious myself, you know? Hey, Jelly, yeah. He was more carefree than he was. Now, let's, give the fact that the man came back from the dead, and anybody be super excited about not being dead anymore. But this was Superman in every way we want Superman to be, or I want Superman to be, I guess. And that was just awesome. And now, for the God's sakes, give us a second Superman movie. Before I didn't want one. Now I want one so bad. So bad. And I tell you what, I want Darkseid to be the villain. Because everyone thought Darkseid, pretty much the Thanos of the DC Cinematic Universe, was going to be the villain. They mentioned him once in this whole film, and that was it. They didn't, see him or anything. I guess in the Zack Snyder cut, they said that it was possible he was going to be shown, but when it came to Joss Whedon doing the editing, they took him out. They mentioned him once. So they could still use Darkseid, 10 films down the road, I guess, if they want to. But for me, Darkseid represents the opposite of Superman. He's a superpowered alien, much like Superman, but he's the exact opposite beliefs of Superman. He's someone who physically and mentally can go toe-to-toe with this Man of Steel, and that's why I want to see Darkseid as the villain in this film, and not a New Justice League. All right, so let's break down the basics here, guys. We're going to hit up IMDb, go down character for character, and just talk a little bit about each one. Starting off with Batfleck himself, Ben Affleck. What'd you think?
It was fine.
That's it? All you got was, he was fine.
Yeah, I mean, he was fine.
Okay, I guess I'll take the reins on this one. The last time we saw Ben Affleck, or Batfleck, or Bruce Wayne, or whatever you want to call him, he was crazy. He was a little cray-cray, okay?
Yeah.
A little cray-cray. He had his moment of epiphany, and now in this one, he was more like Batman. Now, there was a couple times where he kind of did a couple jokes that I didn't think were appropriate for Batman. There was the one where he was talking to Superman, he's like, I thought you didn't like me. And he was like, well, I didn't think I didn't like you. Batman wouldn't care. He wouldn't say that. That's stupid. Whatever. But one thing he would do is do whatever it takes to win. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of how they brought Superman back to life.
Yeah, me neither.
But it makes sense for Batman. Batman saw this window of hey, if we don't get Superman back, or if we don't have a powerhouse on our team, we're not going to win. Wait, there's this little glimmer we can get Superman back. There's a little glimmer that we can win. Okay, let's do it. I don't care how dangerous it is. And that's Batman. Batman's going to do whatever it takes to win, regardless of the consequences or how extreme it may be. So in that sense, yes, totally Batman, totally on it. I could do without a couple of the jokes. That's fine. But overall, it was fine. Now, we sidestepped that a little bit and talk about a possible Batman film coming off of this. Rumors have it Ben Affleck's going to be out. Matt Reeves is saying he wants Jake Gyllenhaal. Just a little sidestep on this conversation. What do you think about these rumors, Lisa?
I mean, I don't really care. I'm not a big Batman fan. He's like my least favorite part. Okay. So, I mean, I like Jake Gyllenhaal. I think if they do a good movie, it's fine. I liked the Batman. I liked the old Batman trilogy. The
Dark Knight?
Yeah, the Dark Knight trilogy. I enjoyed that very much, but I also love Christian Bale. So, that may have something to do with it.
Oh.
But I don't really care. I mean, I'm fine to see Ben Affleck go. I think he did fine. But
I think he did a great job, and I'm sad to see him go. But it is what it is. I mean, I don't know, the inner workings of it or what happened, but they threw out a script. They said he wasn't going to direct after, he just won an Academy Award for Best Film, and he's got an Oscar for writing. I mean, what the hell is Warner Brothers thinking? But I understand why he's leaving, so I'm okay with that. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. So, all right, moving on. Of course, I talked a little about Henry Cavill as Superman, Clark Kent. You have anything else you want to add to it?
No, I love him. I think he's great.
I think he did it was how he should be?
Yeah, I think Superman.
I mean, aside from his lip.
Yeah, aside from the lip. No, I thought he was great. I thought he did a great job in this. He was smiling, and I mean, I still maintain that I don't like the way they brought him back from the dead, but they had to do it because they stupidly killed off Superman.
Yes, as soon as we were sitting there, after the movie, we were sitting there in the bar, and Lisa was talking. She was like...
Well, yeah, no, that's what I said. I was like, if they hadn't killed him in the last one, which was stupid.
Stupid.
Like, why would you kill Superman in, the third movie in your cinematic universe?
Second movie in your cinematic.
It didn't make any sense. And I was like, but if they hadn't killed him off, they wouldn't have had to spend so much time in this one bringing him back to life. Like, they could have done so much more with this film if they hadn't had to spend a half an hour of it bringing him back to life and then making him remember who he was. Like, it was fine for what it was, but it was unnecessary that they had to do it because they shouldn't have killed him in the first place.
Yeah, but you could say also, too, just playing devil's advocate, it created the tension where the team couldn't win without him. Because as soon as Superman came in the fight, it was like, done, Steppenwolf's done, the guys have won, okay? So you had to create a little bit of that tension, I guess, of the drama of can the heroes defeat the villain.
The tension could have been created other ways. Maybe he was off-world or something.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on.
All right.
It was just. I still think it was just incredibly stupid that they killed him in.
So before we move on to Amy Adams, I want to talk a little too about this film. There's a couple lines in this film that really make me believe that Warner Brothers is on the right track. Kind of like how, remember in The Force Awakens, the very first line in that film was, "This will begin to make things right," which people saw it as an underlining tone to where Lucasfilm was like, hey, we know the prequel sucked. We're going to do better. We're going to make it up to you. There's a line in this film where Superman, he comes back to life, and he's like, I'm back now. I'm going to make things right, or I'm going to make things better. And I felt like the fact that we were getting the real Superman in this film was kind of that line similar to The Force Awakens where like, hey, we realized we screwed up. We realized we didn't give you the right Superman. Here he is. Here's the right superheroes. Here's the right universe. We're going to make it right.
But that only can happen if Zack Snyder does not come back.
He said he's not coming back.
He's not.
He's not coming back. Nope,
okay.
He's moved on.
Then I'm fine with that.
They already announced he's not in the DC Cinematic Universe anymore. He's moving on.
Super.
And then, of course, at the end there, you had the voiceover with Lois Lane, where she was talking about darkness and light. And I don't remember the exact quote, but there was a line about how when you come back out of the darkness, it's the light was always there. It just is a little different, and it took a while to get there. It was to where it made me see, like, again, something else where they're referencing this universe as a whole to where, hey, we were in the crapper. Now we're coming back into the light, and hopefully things will be good from here on out. Mm-hmm. And that's an underlining tone as I saw it. So getting on to Amy Adams as Lois Lane, do you think she had a decent character arc in the film, given the fact that she wasn't a hero? I enjoyed, what they did with her in this. How did you feel about it?
I mean, I think that her purpose in this movie was to make Clark remember who he was.
Well, but at the same time, they had this thing at the beginning there where, she didn't go on. She was still dwelling on Clark.
Yeah.
She wasn't the reporter she should be. Mm-hmm. She had this whole breakdown when she first met Clark, or when he came back to life, about I failed. I didn't move on like I should have. I didn't, go on. So in that respect, I like that little bit. What little bit it was, I liked it.
I thought she did fine.
Yeah. So, all right, moving on to the Princess of Themyscira, Miss Diane Prince, Gal Gadot. Of course, some people say she stole the show again.
I thought
she did fine. I liked, again, with her character arc, was very nice because the scene between her and Batman,
Mm-hmm.
they were talking about how you've been around, you've been hiding for 100 years. You know, Superman was this beacon of hope. That's what you should be too, but instead you're hiding, still pining over Steve Trevor. Which I gotta say, I think they referenced Steve Trevor a little too much in this film.
Oh, yeah.
I think they mentioned his name like 4 or 5 times, which I think was just one or two much. But again, she had that character arc to where at the end there, she was kind of leading the team because she is a powerful character like Superman, someone who has gone toe-to-toe with the Man of Steel and beaten him before. So she's just as powerful as him, just as much a symbol of hope as he can be. So it would make sense that she needs to step in that light as well. And at the end of the film, we saw that. The kind of adventure that we saw at the end there where she was stopping the robbers and putting, looks like some kind of priceless artifact back in a box. Those are kind of adventures that she has done in the past in the comics. So again, I think we're going on the right track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought she did a really good job.
Now, do you think Wonder Woman 2 is going to be set in the past? Like, because they're rumored it's going to be in the 1980s. Or would you rather see it move on here from the present?
Oh, I don't know. I guess it depends. I don't really care where it takes place as long as it's a good story.
Because, like I said, she's been, technically, they said that she's been off the radar for 100 years. So what is Wonder Woman 2 going to be about if it's set in the past? And we've heard all these stories about her pretty much in hiding for 100 years, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
what battle is she going to have when she's going to sit there and mope in a room?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I think it would make more sense to have it go in the future, but I don't know.
Moving on, Ezra Miller as the Flash, a.k.a. Barry Allen. I thought he was fine. Of course,
I thought he was
he
fine.
was the comic relief. We expected him to be the comic relief in this film, which was great. I will say, though, that was not Barry Allen. That was Wally West. I want to go ahead and get that off my chest right now. That was Wally West with Barry Allen's background. But at any point, he served his purpose. It was great. I was afraid they were going to throw in too many jokes.
I don't think they did.
And there was a point where, it was some point where the action had stopped. And I thought, oh, God, here comes a Flash joke. And they didn't do it. And I'm like, all right. Whereas, you know, in Thor Ragnarok, it's like joke after joke after joke. This, they didn't have the joke. So that was a pleasant surprise for me. They didn't try to overdo the jokes. So, moving on, Aquaman, Jason Momoa. I think we already kind of talked about that. Ray Fisher as Cyborg. Now, again, not a big Cyborg fan, but the fact that they got Ray Fisher, an unknown actor, but he's been doing Broadway for years. So
he was really good.
He was good. I know. When I watched it a second time, I saw what he brought to the role. Even though he was covered in so much CGI, what little human you saw of him.
Oh, yeah, he really did a good job with it. I think he did the acting. I mean, he really was, even though the character was mostly CG, I mean, I thought he really brought I thought he did a really great job.
Exactly. Jeremy Irons is Alfred. For what little part he did, he was whatever. Diane Lane is Martha Kent. She had her little role to play. I was going to say I'm a bit disappointed. There was one line where when she was sitting in the Daily Planet talking to Lois, and she said something she got the phrase wrong about being thirsty instead of hungry, and it made her kind of seem kind of dumb. And Martha Kent's not dumb. She's, a farmer's wife, but she's smart and loving. And to me, it made her come up kind of, I want to say hillbilly.
Yeah, I think they did make her seem great.
Yeah.
Not just from that line, but I think in general the way that they presented her made her seem
especially compared to how she was in Man of Steel. Man of Steel, she didn't have that twang to her in Man of Steel, so that kind of threw me off with her character. Connie Nelson as the Queen, J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon. We didn't get a big sample of him, but of course, he was good. And then from there, it's just, a couple of characters going down, but I think we covered the main ones. I want to talk a little bit about that beginning kind of flashback where I call it the Lord of the Rings background story, because it very much was like in the first Lord of the Rings film. You get the backstory and the battle for Middle-earth. This was the battle for Earth. Not Middle-earth, but Earth. And you had all these different races coming together to fight the bad guy. And that's why I really felt Lord of the Rings is for me. And we saw the Green Lantern on top of Zeus. And what other Greek god? Who's the one with bow and arrow? It was, I can't remember what her name was. I'm going to remember it. But Zeus. The Greek gods were there. Because even Steppenwolf in the movie, when he met Wonder Woman, he was talking about, you have the power of the old gods. Either that or he was talking about Flash. I couldn't really tell.
No, it's talking about her.
I think, okay, so I thought it was talking about, yeah. So that makes sense. When he talks about the old gods, he's talking about the Greek gods. But it was really cool seeing Green Lantern in there. And now we've established Green Lantern in this world, which I'm super excited about. So totally excited to see more Green Lantern. So we'll see what happens to that in the future. All right, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up here?
No. I mean, I just think overall, I think it was a step in the right direction. I hope that people go to see it.
Yeah, I hope it gets more praise because, yeah, it is the step in the right direction. It's the movie that I think we want, although there's people on the internet bitching about it. There's already petition. People want to see the Zack Snyder version.
Oh, God.
The stuff that he originally shot, the vision that he originally had, people want to see it. And I'd be curious, but I like this version. I can already tell you, I'm probably not going to like Zack Snyder's version.
No, I wouldn't.
Exactly. So I'm fine with what we got.
I mean, you can totally tell that Joss Whedon revamped this, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't overly jokey. It did have, a few jokes that I could have done without, but I don't think it's overly jokey. It was fun. You had your serious moment. And like I said, you had all the action and the jokes, but you had the character moments. One of my favorite character moments was with Bruce and Alfred when they were talking about Superman. And Bruce has the line, "He's more human than I am." Mm-hmm. And it's so true. That line right there got to me and be like, boom, this is it. These are the characters. That's something Bruce would say because Superman is more human than Batman, even though he's an alien. I love the line. I was totally in, and that's why I had such faith that, yes, this is what we're supposed to get because whoever put that line in there, and Joss Whedon helped write this, they get these characters. They know what these characters are all about. And the scene with Wonder Woman and Bruce, too, there, when she fixes his shoulder, it had the nice, quiet character moments, as well as the action and the jokes. Good mixture. It was, again, entertaining film.
Yeah, no, I think so. I definitely, thumbs up.
All right, so just to wrap this up, let's look at the future of the DC Cinematic Universe. Aquaman's coming out in over a year.
Over a year.
And then the only other two films they've actually set dates for are Wonder Woman 2 and Shazam coming out in 2019. What do you think they should or will do at this point? Because they had a whole slew of films they wanted to do. They wanted to do Suicide Squad 2, Gotham City Sirens, Batgirl, Nightwing, Batman film, whatever, Do you think they should still push ahead a Batman trilogy?
No.
Do you think they should try to get Flash in order?
Yeah, I think we have enough Batman movies. Like, let's look at some of these other characters. We're getting to know them now. Let's ride with it. Like, we have so many Batman movies.
And I think, to me, it's let's look at on TV with the Arrowverse. All those characters, Green Arrow, Atom, Black Canary, all those guys, those are B to C-rated heroes. But on there, you can see just how good they can be. And you can see the plethora of interesting characters DC has that they can access if they only use them right. And I think Warner Brothers and the movies need to take note and say, hey, we have more than just Batman and Superman.
Yeah.
And I think especially the way people responded to Cyborg, a relatively unknown character, and Aquaman, I think they realize if those are more the standouts in this film, they're going to be like, well, let's see who else we got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something like that. I don't know. There's word of Flashpoint. There's word of, other films coming up the tailpipe. We'll just have to wait and see. Warner Brothers wanted to take a step back after the failure, we'll call it failure, of Batman v Superman and see how Justice League landed. While it's not doing well right now, I think everyone agrees it's a step in the right direction. And from this point, I want to see them push forward from here. I don't want to see them stop. If Justice League was bad, I might would have seen them stop, but not now. I think they're on the right track, and I want to see them go on from here. I want to see another Superman movie. Sorry, I had to get that out one more time.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, guys, this is time for you to fire back. Let us know what you think about Justice League. Hit us up, dayspringdiscussions@gmail.com. Of course, the Facebook group and on Twitter. Let us know. Did you enjoy Justice League like we did? Did you see it for a second time? Are you going back for a third time like I probably am? We'll have to wait and see. But that's going to be it for us. And Lisa, all I can say now is it's time to get ready for Star Wars.
Hells yeah.
That's right, guys. That's right. The next time,
less than a month.
Next time, we're going to be doing a huge Star Wars review. It's going to be awesome. So we're going to start rewatching some Star Wars movies and get psyched for that. But please let us know what you think about Justice League. Please. And that's going to be it. Anything else you want to know?
Nope.
All right, guys. Well, that is it for us today. And remember, till the next time, may the Force be with us all.